Welcome to Ruger Tech Tips. For Mini-14 owners, I'm going to show you how to properly remove your trigger guard and reinstall it. And with some, we've found where these have opened up too much and they come out too easily, and I'm going to show you how to reset that so they're installed properly. So before we begin, I want to make sure my rifle and magazine are completely unloaded, as well as my work area. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to engage my safety, so I'm going to lock my safety to the rear. I'm going to hit my magazine latch, and I'm going to make sure that the magazine has no live ammunition in it. Set that aside. I'm going to grab my charging handle, pull that to the rear, and unlock the bolt back by pushing my bolt lock down and then easing my bolt and charging handle forward. Pretty simple what we need for tools. You're just going to need a soft-faced hammer, a just standard screwdriver, some type of soft cloth, and of course a good pair of safety glasses. So to begin with, to do this, I need to close the action. So I'm just going to pull my charging hand to the rear and release that and let that go. Now on the back side of our trigger guard, there's a small hole here, just on this curve, just on this radius, and I need to stick the tip of my screwdriver in that hole and just pry that forward. You don't want to get too aggressive on opening this up, so I'm just going to stick the tip in there just a little bit. I don't want to go way in deep with my screwdriver, just barely the tip, and I'm just pushing forward on the top of the screwdriver to pop that open. What tends to happen with people is they get too aggressive and they push too much and they bend this part of the trigger guard out, which then makes it easier and easier and easier to unlatch the trigger guard, which can make it fall out when you're shooting it. So that tends to be the issue. Now, if you get a trigger guard that this portion here is bent out, there's a simple way to correct that. If you look at this little peak here, there's a little mountain here, our trigger guard should come down and hit the very top of that peak. I don't want to be over the peak, but I want to be just at the peak of that where it makes contact. So you can hold it up to light, look through, you'll see where the contact point is. The further down the slope this back of this trigger guard sits, the easier it is to open, but also the more likely this is going to pop open when you're using the rifle, which we don't want. The fix for this is very, very simple. We're just going to put this in a standard vise. We're going to squeeze this together, and we're going to move this back leg here. We're going to move that in slightly to get it back on the peak. So I just have a regular vise here. I'm going to put a pad in here so I don't mar up my finish on my rifle. I put this in here. I'm just going to bring these two together, and I'm going to clamp this together. Typically, because of the material we use for the trigger guard, you almost have to go beyond, and it's going to spring back slightly. So it's a little bit of trial and error. So I'm going to bring this in, and then I'm going to back it up. And then I can just look at that and see if I'm hitting in the correct position. If it takes me a couple tries to get it in the correct position, it's no big deal. So I'll just squeeze that in. And I can check it and I can get it in the right position. Now if you found that you've closed that up too much, you need to back it up. It's simply a matter of going in with a screwdriver just a little ways and then prying that back, bending that back, double check it, get it in the correct position. Then all I need to do is I'm just going to reinstall this in the rifle. Now, one little trick with this, there's a rail that sticks out on the side of the trigger guard, and inside the rifle, there's a groove, what would be on the same side as the charging handle. There's a groove in there. You just line up the rail with the groove, and the two halves go right together. Compress that with your hand. Some of these are very, very stiff, which stiff is good. Stiff is what you want. You can use a soft-faced hammer. The tendency for people is to hit it here or to hit it here to latch that in. You want to hit it on the front. That seems counterintuitive, but it pivots at the front and it's got to slide. It wants to slide to the rear. So a hit on this front corner and it'll latch right over and it's locked in. Very, very simple fix. So if you get your Mini-14 where this comes out too easy or falls out while you're shooting it, a quick bend with that, hit it on this front corner, you're back in business. Thanks for watching this Ruger Tech Tip.